I don't know if you know this, but I went in prep for this, which we haven't done something like this in a while.
Yeah.
So I was really looking forward to like just having the opportunity to do it because it's been a minute. But I went back to the Origin podcast,
Oh, yeah. 18.
December 2017.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Right.
Okay. So
5 years almost. 4.5.
5.5 years.
Who's the math major here? Yeah.
5.5 years into this. And it doesn't feel like 5.5 years into this at all. But I think what the beauty of your and my position is, unlike the rest of the interviewees in the 5 questions series, like we've been here since we had the talk, right? And when
Talk.
I just give my 5 questions to Denise, and we're talking about like how it all got started, and the thunderclap sort of like cosmos moment that we just happened on, telling a story that spawned another story that spawned a room full of stories that spawned a movement that, right? Like we
Yeah.
could have fumbled that
Yep.
in that moment and had nothing come of it. And we were fortunate. And so in listening to what we said, there's a couple things that really came to light that I wanted to touch on as we now look at it from 5.5 years later.
So we're going
you
back in
said,
time. We're going
can
back
we
in time.
reinvent ourselves to include a focus on social good? That's legitimately the sentence that you uttered. You said, can Sage and ESP have search criteria specific to the things that would qualify under this social good category? Can PromoCares become the cause marketing champions?
Oh, wow. You know what we call this? This is Promostradamus.
Danny's crystal ball to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
you said there's a difference between chasing the almighty dollar and combining serving and selling.
Mm.
So on the other hand, there were topics that we covered in there that I think are still problems to this day: culture, retention. Like there's many businesses that are struggling with these things. Okay, so it's really interesting to look at it with that context in mind, because we go to Expo and we're walking the show floor, and you and I are not walking the show floor together. We're walking it independent of one another. And the text messages that were going around about like, holy Christ, can you see what's going on? So what did you make of that? Like, what was your take on what we saw at Expo this year?
Well, first, I applaud suppliers. I applaud them. I'd say keep that shit up, suppliers. Like break out the slow and the fast and the loud claps. I think it's interesting. Today we're looking at trying to find suppliers that are selling sustainable, and which is all over the place. I think we're still trying to define that and bypass greenwashing. Be damned, But fine. I was telling Mel, we now have a director of social impact and sustainability, which is so weird to say. I don't know how many in the industry have that, but I'm proud of that. I was telling Mel, I was like, we've got to find the bee. And she was like, find the bee.
Yeah.
So getting the suppliers to continue to do more of this, finding B Corp manufacturers, makers out there they can bring into our industry. And we're going to try and help with that at Brand Fuel. But I think the suppliers are really, that's their charge. And if it's not B Corp oriented brands, and we're seeing that a lot right now, which is exciting, find that EcoVadis groups, the SOC 2 compliant organizations, find the 1% for the planet. There's all kinds of paths out there. And I think a lot of companies are trying to figure out how they can do this, even if just contributing a portion of profits. And so, it's fun to look back, Roger, that Promostradamus crystal ball conversation we had.
Right.
I think about PromoCares is putting, the conversation in the right places, like some of it was like a grind and friction, and people were like, "Oh, that's too small. You're just a small, mighty group." It's the same Roger and Danny's friends doing this. But over time, we saw it grow. And of course, ASI has their own initiatives. PPAI is leaning into it in their strategic planning. As CSR is a pillar now. We see distributors talking about suppliers, like we just said. And I think this idea, Paul Bellantone used to say, we've got to get the industry to move at the speed of trust, and so if you want to elevate the industry, and maybe, margins and impacts are a part of that. It sounds like a country song, margins and impacts. This thing that we're seeing at Expo and now in catalogs and on every single educational platform. Sage next week is doing it. This week was Common SKU. All of them are having, a conversation around the stuff that PromoCares was pushing 5 years ago. And I don't think, maybe we got lucky. Maybe we saw something. Maybe it was just important to us, and we helped others find the importance of that as well. But this stuff makes sense. Nobody in our industry is an idiot. They would not invest money or put it in there. They get, this is the right thing. It's the right thing to do.
Well, I was thinking about what you said about our great friend, Mr. Paul Bellantone. And, he told us in our late night conversations that we would have when we were together at Band Together, when Paul would join us, that demand was going to drive this.
Yeah.
And whether or not we had a hand in driving demand for it or not, be damned. Demand for it is what drove it.
That's right. That's right.
What we probably did is, by positioning ourselves at the forefront of this prior to the demand occurring, when the demand caught up with what we were espousing, it was easy to see us as an honest broker because we'd already been at it for a while, right? And because we went about it in a very, we didn't ask anybody for money. We didn't try to commercialize it or monetize it in any particular way. We didn't use it as a recruiting tool as other people have tried to do it. We purely did it for the sake of our own and collective belief that this was a differentiator for our industry. And in the process, I think everybody sort of looked around and went, no, they're totally right. They're totally right. And we were in the right places because of the nature of the people that comprise our volunteer group, that we were involved in conversations at an early enough stage that we could help drive the discussion.
There's a good point in that right there. Like, I just pause on that you just said. It's almost like if you owned a bar, you need to put really pretty and nice, good looking people as your bartenders, right? Pretty and nice. And I think that's part of it. But also we invited, people we thought had big hearts and wallets and, decision-making power into the room to say, what are you doing? Is this of interest? I think we sort of brought people along for the ride early on to try and create some early adoption. I thought that was a kind of a brilliant, like, what is going to happen here move. We didn't have a good plan or agenda, but I think that's good. I think that anybody who wants to start a movement, these are important points that help you win sooner, quicker.
And really, not to just belabor this point, but so many people wanted us to define what it was supposed to be very early on, and we refused. I can remember getting into a specific argument with a person about my unwavering unwillingness to make it be whatever my vision of it was supposed to be. That was never what we intended. And I believe, like, I'm sure you agree with me, that many of the things that we've accomplished as an organization would never have happened had I articulated a vision in the early days of what we were trying to accomplish.
That's right.
It's amazing. All right. So that's side A of the record. We flipped the record over on side B and we asked the question, like, what's the temperature on this topic? When it comes to not just our industry, because it's obvious that it's a thing in our industry. So we don't need to even spend much time. And That's not a victory lap. That's just, we acknowledge, we saw it. It is what it is. Is it too late? Is it timed right? Where do we fit in what's going on now from consumer sentiment when it comes to the way we're constructing what it is we're trying to offer?
Yeah. So like, is it simmering or whatever? Is it still, growing? Is it fired up? So I was on a panel this week, very lucky to be the old guy on the panel full of young people, downtown Raleigh, and get invited to go there because we're marketing our B Corp, and they want to talk to companies that have purpose-driven strategies. But the point on the panel was more to talk to college students and kids that are just now coming out into the workforce, to ask them what are they interested in. Mm-hmm. And Roger, I shit you not, every single one of those students, they're looking to work for or create a purpose-driven model. And I think that's one answer. So the future is bright there. And granted, it's a cross section of a handful of people, but they threw out percentages that we can all look up around that. I think that's kind of cool. Mm-hmm. We did an RFP recently, where in the RFP, global CRO said 100% of the products that you sell to us, that you present in the RFP, has to be sustainable. You wanted it to be defined. So there's a key point for you. Yep. Cause marketing. Man, I love cause marketing simplified. You buy, we give, right? Mm-hmm. So our industry can be a part of that. We do some of that already, whether that's a percentage or a buy one, give one, those kinds of things that are happening. Certainly it happens in consumer marketing all the time. It's alive and well. Cause marketing is driving our friend Joe. He talks about all the time about driving customer loyalty, that cause marketing can increase sales. You think about leads that can come in, employee retention, employees that want to work for a company that care. All this is impact to community in some way, probably mission aligned community work that's aligned with their brands, finding nonprofits that are doing the hard work front lines and telling their stories. And you kind of look at trends now, things that are heating up in the news. We're not going to talk about Bud Light, but we'll just say LGBTQ, environmentalism, women's empowerment. You got puppy dogs and kitty cats, DEI. I mean, all these things are related to now helping sell products in the consumer world. And I think we could take a page from that book. We got an election coming up in 2024. You're going to see, I think you'll see more civic engagement around brands doing work. And then I just think about brand fuel, the place that I live and the place that you live on the distributor side, our team is really excited, but we're also investing in education. I've got Mel doing this, social impact and sustainability. 100% of her job is educating first, and then we'll go to market in a year or so more than we have. And we're not pimping product. We're talking about strategy. And I think that's starting to happen more and more in our industry. So I think it's heating up, man. But that's because I'm around it, and I'm gonna keep lighting fire and pouring fuel into the fire every freaking day.
Well, and we could pick this one apart. So Raleigh is a relatively progressive marketplace. So there's that. You brand yourself as an organization that businesses who are seeking that kind of business would go to. So you're going to attract the kind of client that you seek, right? So you're obviously going to be biased in your response because it's a part of your go-to-market strategy. So really what we're saying is, to the average listener who is a part of the PromoCares community sufficiently well that they would be spending their time listening to Danny and Roger talk, it's what's yours? What are you doing? Yep. And if you're not, then what are you doing? Because if you're involved in this and you're immersing yourself in these messages and you don't have something that you've adopted for yourself, what are you waiting for? Yeah. Get started. There's no time like right now. Let's go. And whether you're where Danny is or Denise or me, or we're all in different places in our own individual journeys on this, but the commonality between all of us is that we're on the journey. Mm-hmm. The question really isn't whether it's ebbing or flowing. It's, does it matter whether it is or isn't, right? And I think what you're trying to say is, at this stage of brand fuels development, you've sort of found that sweet spot that matches up with what your brand values are. I mean, am I hearing you right? Like, is that what we're talking about?
That is, I mean, but our values at Brand Fuel are no different than yours or any other distributors. We want to make money. We want to feel like we're bringing meaning into the world. We want to, we want to sell things that, work for our customers, that last. And I think some of this has to just do with education and really drilling down and having our industry be super invested. And when I say industry, I mean at the individual level, but all the way on up to the umbrella organizations like PPAI and ASI, and individuals and companies taking advantage of the education to really understand, solution selling. I mean, dude, AI is knocking on our industry's door. So like, if you're not thinking about how AI is going to give end buyers the opportunity, not just to go online and say, I want, who's got a pen. They're going to be able to find things that are deeply demographic. I'm going to look for people who are 50-ish years old, who are male, who love alternative Americana music, who also, love to travel, who are in the Midwest or on the East Coast or whatever, who are in the industry of marketing or accounting. And what are the things that they love most, the products they love most that can be branded, and ChatGPT, AI, whatever platform will spit out the top 10, options. And that customer will say, okay, I like this idea. Where can I get the cheapest version of this in 4 days delivered to, California? And then that'll send you to some transactional website. There's 4imprint, hello, transactions. And so why are we not thinking about, this, as you said earlier, as a differentiator, the strategy, really thinking about it from an agency perspective, understanding that, AI is going to create some efficiencies for us. It's probably going to cut into some of our businesses, but how do we work with it versus against it? And, I think this whole sustainable initiative and, creating some truth and trust in our industry and the reputation of our industry will be helpful, because ultimately, we know that the people, like, and trust, it still will matter to some extent to some buyers. But younger buyers, I think that's evolving to be very different. And I think we need to be in lockstep with that.
Yeah. No, and to your point, we've survived many a disruption in what we perceive to be our ability to convey value to our client. I mean, that's been the only constant that we've really had to deal with. So whether it's a smaller marketplace that you serve better so that you get a larger market share and better margin, that's where we're all saying, like, what lane are you picking?
Yeah.
Going forward, if what we're saying is true, and the possibility of us becoming obsolete has increased from a pure generalist perspective, which I think, our industry is pervasive with generalists. So how might we help if you need a lifeboat?
Yeah.
And you also have some values that line up with what we're talking about, then wouldn't this be a great place for you to consider, because we can take the tools like ChatGPT if we have a lane of expertise and use it to our advantage.
Yeah.
As opposed to it being used as an advantage against us. Right.
Yeah, that's right.
So fascinating stuff. I believe we are not long from a moment when the products we present all have something that would represent a PromoCares pillar attached to them, and we need not even bother talking about it. Like, it just is. And it's not the reason why the client buys it, but if you identify as the seller the tie that would help the narrative between the product give back and what the customer cares about, then you did them a solid.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's going to be a period of time before the machines can catch up with them knowing who the right factories are when those connections need to be made. That still represents a value opportunity for guys like you and me.
Agree.
So if you haven't figured that part out yet, people, there's Well, there's a reason why we're having this conversation with you. And remember, the guy 6 years ago said some crazy stuff that all came true. So I'm just
That's
saying.
funny. Well, and that's kind of fun to look back, you know, and think about things that came true that we said. You know, super proud of what PromoCares, how it started in a conversation and between you and I, and how you really embraced that and just started running with it. And you got us all here, man. And just, you know, thank you to you. And I think that needs to be said. And then speaking of PromoCares, you were talking about like, what's mine to do, you know, for everybody, what it's, you know, I can't be a B Corp tomorrow.
Right.
But PromoCares is got great content, you know, that we put together for suppliers and distributors, outlines all the different areas, some basic steps, some heavy lifts. Go to promocares.org and check that out, and bring that to your team and see where you could start.
And not to mention, I mean, if you don't want to do that, you just want to jump in with both feet. We've got one going on right now.
Yeah, we do.
So there's like, you could start today if you want to get involved, because we've got Water for Good going on. And, you know, this is number 3 for us. And before we talk about the specifics of Water for Good, I just want you and I to take a moment as the old hats in the room. I had no idea that this was going to happen when we got started. And to see not only that it got started, but how it's become this juggernaut of a machine is such a testimony to when people all believe things that you're willing to put out in the universe and do it without really knowing where things are going to head. All of a sudden you're bumping up against $100,000 and you have no idea that that's what was going to happen.
Yeah, and we're not even an official organization like EIN numbers, nonprofit. We are a movement. We are the soulful ether of our industry, and you know, and we're working with trusted nonprofits to receive those funds and distribute them back into communities. And part of that vetting process is kind of cool. But yeah, it's something to be really proud of. Something to be really proud of.
So, in your mind, what makes Water for Good unique in comparison to perhaps what we did for Ukraine or for NAMI?
Well, I mean, the obvious one to me is that this is, I'll say, maybe a little bit more fully streamlined fundraiser. So it involves more layers and you know, organizationally in our industry. So you've got probably everything except for 2 layers. You've got the suppliers. Where's I got a list here. Hang on.
Yeah.
So, okay, here we go. Thank you, Hirsch, Gordon Sinclair, Starline, HPG, HIT, Alpha Broder, SOC 101, Raining Rose, love you, Kate, SNS, thanks, Meg, NC Custom, and Snugs. That's a freaking great lineup. I don't know if I missed any. I hope I didn't, but like we've got the suppliers. They've all stepped up and they said, we're going to take our products, right? And for 2 months, we're going to get for a suite of these products that we have, whether it's one item or suite of products, we're going to give a percentage back to this Planet for Water or Planet for Good campaign. And so, do I have that right?
Water for Good.
Planet Water, Water for Good, a lot of water, but
lots of water.
And I think we all know that's going to add up, which is really exciting. So that didn't happen before, you know, but we've got now distributors selling that stuff, and clients now are going to see this as really a cause marketing campaign. So you've got those 3 layers. The thing that I think we're missing is probably the maker manufacturers. If we can get them to be involved at the maker level, you know, down the road. And certainly I think the end recipients, they may or may not know that this was affiliated with, you know, a cause marketing campaign, but there's probably a possibility we could put an insert with a QR code, the video, they can donate or do something to help the campaign. But I love the, you know, you've been saying co-opetition with the suppliers, and then ultimately the true collective impact. And I'm just proud of all the stuff that we're doing. I mean, this team, this go round, it's like sometimes some people are taking a pause, you know, in the group and our board doing the work. And this, you know, I'm one of the people who have not done as much work this time, and kind of not apologetic because Meg and you and Scott And Kate, our new Kate and Denise, you guys have all done such a great job. I'm just proud to be, still sitting in the boardroom doing the do.
Every time it's like, I cared about this one more than maybe some of the others because I saw how this is a new evolution in what we're trying to accomplish. And I want it to be successful. I desperately want it to be successful because this time it's people. You don't have to sit on the sidelines. If you want to get involved, go make sales calls right now. There's a catalog. And you can go say to people, hey, if you buy anything out of this, then a contribution is going to happen to Water for Good. Here's what they're going to accomplish. You can say you were a part of it if you make a purchase. Like, there's no better actionable thing we can create than this. And to me, it represents a new era in what PromoCares is all about, because unlike in the past where we would give you a concept and say, now go do something with that. Yeah. We're saying, no, take this concept and use it. And to me, the idea that we can go that far.
Yes. Let's see here.
Is such a giant step forward for us as an organization. And like, if we could 600 miles high five each other.
Yeah.
Over the idea that like, this thing has legs that I knew that it could have. And it renewed my own enthusiasm for what we're trying to do organizationally, because I can see so clearly the vision of like how this has become exactly what we said we wanted it to be, which was, instead of it being a cheerleader, it was, we want to give you things you could do.
Yep.
Okay, there you go.
So here's a campaign. This is pretty impressive. Water is a human right, Water for Good, Planet Water Foundation. I got that right. And then you start to get into it and you're like, all right, here's what it's all about. Here's how you get involved. The Zoom catalog is donated to the catalog. We've got Raining Rose product. We've got Mixie from HPG, Starline. This stuff's beautiful. It's not like it's crap we're selling. I mean, this is high quality merchandise. 1% back, 2% back. Sock 101, eco-friendly socks. Alpha Broders, great drinkware. 2% back on their Shaker branded items. Gordon Sinclair, their Patriot line, these water bottles, the Patriot bottle, I should say. And then Hirsch, the waterproof speaker. I mean, who came up with that? Clever. Everybody else is doing water bottles. Look at Hirsch. You got SNS, Activewear, and Toltex, which is, I think they've got the factories down there in Mexico near where these water towers will be built. So there's this association with our industry. And going down the line, you've got Hit. Hit they went large, man. Yeah, they embraced this early and strong. And so I can't wait to see the check from them. And then NC Custom here. I mean, just great products. It's something to behold the magic of collaboration.
Well, and to me, like, the hardest thing as a distributor is to have something you can go show somebody. We just did it for you. Like, it's done. You just go show it. Like, what more could you ask for? It's already done. And, and you've got a community of people in the PromoCares Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. Like, you want to talk about how to do it better? Like, jump in there, and everybody's willing to help. Like, it's a really good position. I was looking so forward to us talking today because, like I said, we haven't had a chance really to do this in a while, and it's fun. But there is one. Yeah.
There's a but. I tell my wife, don't say but, say yet. Yet's such a nicer word.
Stan Phelps has the classic one more thing.
Yeah, that's right.
This is one more thing. So I don't know how to say this articulately, so I'll just say it bluntly. Danny, why can we not get this community to talk? Why can we not? There's a lot of people follow what we do, but nobody really gets like talks, and I don't get it. You get like, what do you think? Is this overblown and I'm just completely?
Yeah, I think you're sensitive. You're sensitive, Raj.
It's really possible.
You're sensitive. No, it's true. You're sensitive. That's a good thing. And sometimes that sensitivity drives change, and helps evolve, the movement to be better. But I mean, we have run into some walls and some resistance, and we pushed past some resistance and some walls too. But there's some ongoing malaise, and you would think like the entire industry would be writing checks for $1 million instead of 100,000. I think that's coming. I think that's our future. I think we're building it. I think there's some good progress and focus and strategy. And I think if like these suppliers can make money and distributors can make money off these types of campaigns that we're creating for them, like, yeah, man, like all day long, we'll start to see it, because there's an economic motive. So I think it's okay to be capitalistic. You can't have, money, or you can't have mission without money. You probably can't have money without mission though, either, if you think about it. But I'm thinking about this. I heard this as at that panel thing I was at the other day. They said, what we're dealing with at PromoCares is just about like anything that happens that's new. You have innovators in the beginning, which are, our early stage board, Bill and Tony and all of us. And then those innovators are about 3%, right? And then eventually you get early adopters. That percentage is 14%. We're kind of in the early adopter phase, I think, right now. And the rest they call the early majority. Mm-hmm. And so if we're in that, I don't know if you agree with me, but in that kind of moving to 14% as early adopters, the future, we're just heading down a path, and we need more partners like PPAI has been a great partner, ASI telling our stories, Promo Kitchen. Oh my gosh, what a great partnership.
Yeah. Sage.
Yeah. Sage. What an amazing group of forward-thinking individuals. Yeah, I think I sent this trail to you, but the other day we looked up Confederate flags in Sage to see if there were any there, and there were a handful of them listed. And so we sent a note and said, hey, it's kind of like off-putting. This is not good. And then literally, Raj, within 2 hours, they said they're gone. They're out of the catalog. So there's not just lip service here. I think that's great. But I think if, we get more and more suppliers invested, we'll start to hit pay dirt on reach and get to that early majority. And if we're all putting an investment into CSR and ESG into our strategic plans, I think the industry will grow. I think a lot of companies are scared that, the trinkets and trash that we still sell a lot of, if that goes away, which is a lot of stuff in our industry, will shrink. But just imagine if we were selling higher quality items and the world, businesses saw what we were doing as not trinkets and trash, but high quality, sustainable merchandise. They'd spend more money with us, which is, again, we were talking about margin erosion back in the day. Today, that strengthens margin. Yeah. And so the industry needs a perception facelift still. And I think doing this work improves the world and it improves our bottom lines. And I think there's still a tension, man. We just want to get there faster, but we got to be patient, keep at it, and we'll get there, man.
To me, the difference really is in this notion of, do we leave it to you to interpret for yourself, or do we give you things that you can just take to market? And the more we can continue to build a pipeline of items that can be taken to market, the more reliable a partner we will be seen by the people who will come to rely on us for those kinds of solutions. And we watch the Promotional Products Professionals Facebook group where people go and do the exact same thing. And if we go to those communities and say, oh, by the way, it's already done, here, it's yours, go ahead, you can do it. That eventually, if it's successful, it'll be no different than if we went on a ride along with one of our salespeople.
Yep.
They'll be excited about, like, well, that worked. So who else can I go find today to buy the same thing from me because I just saw it work, right? So I think if we stay true to that, to the outcomes, and build them consistent with what we know our needs to be as distributors, and can continue to communicate those needs to our supplier friends who are sympathetic to what we're talking about, the solutions will continue to build, will only get better. The demand for the solutions that we create will only increase. And what I'm hoping is the case is that we build it in a way that makes it so that if you and I are both selling it, you're not trying to undercut me. it is what it is because the money goes to a cause, and they're either going to buy it from you or from me, but they're going to buy it regardless, because so many more of us are showing those ideas to the people who want to see them. And like, I think what you're talking about is like, when do we reach population density? I don't know that we ever do. And in reality, I prefer it that way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also think salespeople are like, we're dopamine whores, you know,
Right.
and like, so when we get that sale or the paycheck, one of the two or both, you get this heightened sense of dopamine and you're excited, you love what you're doing. But this is like dopamine accelerated because there's meaning associated with it. And if you really believe, you know, that you are putting something in the world that works, that lasts, that people appreciate, and that may be associated with something around giving back to community and helping the world be a better place, like, dude, you know, this is such a great path, such a great path. And I'm
It is.
excited about it.